right, you guys ready? Ready. All right, there's the show schedule in the binder. Do you recommend any?
Give me the mic.
I think, wow. I think trade shows are an important part of your marketing mix. Do I recommend doing every show? Absolutely not. Really, it's brand specific. You need to look at those shows. You need to figure out what markets are important to you. Also, in some of those, are you registered in those states? If it's important to your expansion, if you're getting a lot of leads from those areas, then yes, absolutely. But is there one specifically I can say? No, I think it really depends on each brand and where you're at.
I'll expand on that. If you're working with a real estate team and they can kind of pick out those hotspots for those consumers, if that happens to lie within an area that a trade show is going to be at, then I would highly consider considering that trade show, as long as it makes sense to your marketing budget and your schedule.
I'd like to add to that, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So,
Love to hear my voice. I was a musician for 10 years, so I'm good.
Can you sing us a song?
I still charge for it. So, two things. One, we found a whole lot of success continuing to go to these shows. So, I absolutely agree when you go to the right show, you want to make sure that you're putting yourself in a position for growth, right? Not just going to go. But consistency is key. At these trade shows, what we found when we first started with IFA, we were stuck back in we went to New York City. Actually, I was the one that went out and scouted that, and we were stuck, in the back of the vendor area, which is not a fun place to be for trade shows. Of course, you guys wouldn't be as franchisors. But as people continue to go and understand who we are a consistent brand that definitely helped in expanding our business. So I think that is key. To your point with partnering with somebody like us, as far as knowing which trade show to go to, which have been most successful for us, we can absolutely talk to you guys about that. But another thing is that you don't always have to have a booth, right? If you're an emerging brand, we have a booth. We would love to have you guys have a booth during the show. Sure, I mean, it's something that we'd have to talk about, right? I'm not going to make an executive decision right now, but absolutely, we do share our booth with people.
One last thing I want to expand on with that is, and thank you, Phil, for bringing it up. If you're going to one of the national shows, do not exhibit in the emerging franchisor section of the exhibit. You will look tiny, you will look cheap, and you will look not worth it.
100%.
And don't forget that if you do a show, to combine all of your efforts. So, utilize your real estate services to look for how many territories could be located there before you get to the show. So you can have a nice pretty map. Use the printers to have that in your booth. Maybe you want to reach out to your consumers if you already have somebody there and start doing some feedback and getting that reputation management going and getting those reviews from the local area, top of the box that's coming up recent. So that when your franchisees are looking at you and they're evaluating you, because they're going to, that they see all of these people love you locally. It's going to also help them to make that final decision. So, really just think system-wide, not just, oh, we're going to a trade show type of scenario. Okay.
Anybody have anything else to add? Okay. What happens to a franchisee's existing operating location if their ADA is terminated?
Answer. I'm not an attorney, but I will say it depends. It kind of depends on the way that the agreements have been drafted. Typically, the operating unit can still operate. The reasons that you would terminate an area development agreement are for non-performance of that area development agreement. And so if they're not meeting the development schedule, then they essentially lose that area development agreement. But that doesn't necessarily terminate their existing franchise locations. They can still continue to operate, they're still bound to that 10-year term, there's no punishment, anything like that, they just didn't develop the territory. And you don't want large swaths of your available territory sitting empty.
As long as they pay their own fees.
They still have to be in compliance with the franchise agreement.
Right.
What if they get sense? Sorry.
That's when we start looking at finding alternate ways to get them out of your system. If they get upset that they lost their ADA for non-performance and then you can't get them back on the right road through incentivizing, and you built all of that paper trail and all of those communications showing how hard you've worked to support them, unless they go off the deep end and put the devil horns on your logo, then we can have that conversation, which is different. Then you help them exit the system stage left gently in a way that doesn't have to be disclosed, and in a way, hopefully, that brings you in a new franchisee that's excited to work with you.
Any other questions on that one? All right, so this is the last one in the box. IFPG is a sponsor. Who are they? What do they do? Do I care?
Did you write what? Did you write that? No. I know who IFPG is, and I know what they do.
Okay. IFPG is a broker network, the International Franchise Professionals Group. They are a great broker network. IFPG well, I shouldn't say specializes in, but they have a great reputation for working with emerging brands. In some ways, they augment what I do. In some ways, they're a competitor of mine, but I still think that they have an amazing system. I do think that if anyone is interested in broker networks, they are definitely worth considering. It's probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it is the lowest cost of entry of any broker network for an emerging brand, as well as the ongoing fees. Just like any broker network, they do have a broker commission, so be aware of that. But totally worthwhile if that's something that's part of your marketing mix.
Yeah, so what is really great about IFPG, Axe Monkeys is a member of IFPG. They have multiple tiered memberships that get you different things. So you can start out with them low end cost at $125 a month. It is by far the lowest cost of any reputable broker network. Lynn does a seminar quite frequently at different trade shows about how easy it is to become a broker and a consultant. So you always want to qualify that with reputable broker network. Their next step up is only $25 more, so it's $150 a month. So you have the full access to everything that they offer. Is only $275 a month. So they don't really get expensive, and their minimum commission is 30% of your franchise fee. And so it is a place where new emerging franchisors can go. They can put that marketing spend there. They can feed that. What I will say about every broker network, regardless of what you're doing, it's somewhat hands-off because you have a bunch of people out there that are going to potentially promote your brand. What you need to make sure that you don't lose sight of is that you are making sure that they know who you are, right? Every broker network, they're getting a lead feed, they're getting a closed deal announcement from corporate broker, right? And so, they're seeing the franchises that are being awarded across their entire catalog, right? So you have to stay engaged with those brokers to make sure that you're coming up top of mind. I'm gonna have one more thing. What's really cool about working with them is you'll get personality profiles, you get applications that are already filled out. They will go ahead and pre-qualify for you, whether they meet the financial requirements that you're requesting and stuff like that. And like just last week, IFPG sent over a guy in Medford, Oregon. right? And it came along with his entire personality profile. It came with a 10-year work history of what he's done. It came with a personal statement from him of why he wants to get into franchising to begin with. It came with an applicant questionnaire already filled out that was like 4 pages long. And so a lot of the legwork that I, as the franchisor, would care about, this broker already did, and he only makes money for that time if the deal closes. So it's a nice way at times to outsource and systemize a lot of that work.
One last thing, this is just broker networks in general. Yesterday, Jam said something about speed to lead. The rule of thumb on speed to lead is 4 hours. Anything after 4 hours, the probability of closing that deal drops 80%. If you think that it's important to get to your leads within 4 hours, you bet your butt it's important to get back to a broker. Because they know that rule of thumb, they want their attaboys, they're hustling to get that money and to get that deal across the table for you. They know how they react to leads, they expect you to do the same and treat them as a lead and get back to them immediately.
All right, well, that's the last in the box. Steve is trying to trick me into reading this one again.
No.
So what you just
This one
answered.
here is one of, we'd like to see the panel do the dental floss dance.
No, you don't.
But does anybody have any other questions after going through these last 2 days?
I have a question.
Oh, don't take away my job here. I'm bringing the mic.
I have a question. So, for example, anybody here in the room who would like to refer to us for our potential franchisee, what is the acceptable referral fee? If we don't have a broker, we don't have a
So I can tell you what my rule of thumb is. I treat referrals the same as a broker agreement. I want to honor that, I want to pay that commission out for that, and I want to also then keep in mind those systems for me to be able to refer to them as well. So I know from our booths, when we go to shows, we're referring you guys out to all kinds of people that come to the show, even if you're not exhibiting there for the same thing. I'm not saying we want a referral fee, but I'm just saying that that if they find the perfect franchisee for you, why wouldn't we want to give them a commission?
Used to it, franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not doing the franchise development, it's just a referral, not
You know what?
I mean, it's different from what company to compared to just a referral.
The difference there, though, is if they're ready to pass that lead on to you, chances are they've already done a lot of what I would do. They've done that vetting, they've done that qualification, profile. They've figured out why this person isn't right for their system, and had you at top of mind to say, but they might be a right fit over here. So they're being a steward of the franchise community. They're trying to do right by that prospect as well, but they're also trying to do right by your business. So if the vetting is done, then I would agree with you.
No, a little bit, is that, for example, wants to refer to me, somebody that he knows would be a good, perfect match for our business. So there's different.
In those cases, if it's just, here's a name, you guys can work that out, but you want to do something that's equitable, you want to do something that, you guys figure it out between brands, whatever, but you do, whatever you do between one brand, you do with another. There's got to be that precedent where it's what we do for one, we do for all. Because then you don't want to start showing favoritism around all that stuff.
Is there a standard? Or
There's not really something.
You said it was.
I'll give you 5,000.
Where am I going?
Okay.
This is something, it might be kind of important for the franchisors. Let's say a franchisee wanted to pick something, their own way of company shirts, their own way of hats. We us to control it, but what if they wanted to do it? They insist that they want to do it.
So can they, right? So whether or not they can do it depends on your franchise agreement and your operations manual. So if you have claimed the right that they have to purchase their uniforms, their hats, their t-shirts, etc. in your manual from approved suppliers and vendors, then they can only purchase from those approved suppliers or vendors. Otherwise, it is a cause of default. If you want to approve that vendor and they want to submit it, most of you also have mechanisms in your franchise agreements that allow them to submit the request for new vendors and new suppliers, sometimes along with a fee, so you don't get inundated with, all their cousin Bennies that come to want to sell, everything that walks in the door. But that being said, there should be a mechanism for that within your operations manual. If you don't talk about that specifically in there, you need to. It's in your franchise agreement.
So I'm going to piggyback off that and tell you that it's a pretty fine line as well, right? Because franchisee satisfaction is key. So if the franchisee is saying, I'm really not satisfied with this vendor, I really want something else, it's worth that conversation to say, okay, why? Why do you want this new vendor? Why do you want this? Is it comfort? Is it design? Is it price? Is it speed? And to have that conversation, one, so you can at least evaluate your current vendor, right? You can ask other franchisees, are you having similar problems with this vendor as franchisee X? And if the answer comes back as no, then it's a conversation with that franchisee to say, hey, at this time, system-wide, everybody else is pretty satisfied. Is there some form of middle ground that we can meet? Because we need to maintain brand standards, right? That's what you bought into. That's what you spend money with us on a weekly basis, is for our brand. And now ultimately you're wanting to go out and change what you're already paying for. And so it's not really in their best interest. And if you can paint that picture to say, hey, it's not really in your best interest to look and feel different from every other location, and you take it down to dollars and cents, every franchisee is going to respond to that.
The other thing that, in addition to the operations manual, if you haven't started thinking about this, and I'm sure from a reputation management perspective you would agree with this as well, but start thinking about a brand standard guide. What typography are you using? Is it consistent, clear across the brand? Whatever print materials they're creating, where if they're getting a hat created or a shirt created or a hoodie or whatever, is there a standard of this is where the logo goes, this is how the logo is presented, these are the slogans or the catchphrases, etc. This is the type font, etc. Those are the things that if you don't have that in place already, start thinking about, okay, we got to get a brand standard guide for our marketing efforts. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and the one thing that people commonly forget about in brand standards is material and type of print. Something that is embroidered looks different if it is heat pressed, it looks different if it is sublimated. If it's printed on an inkjet printer, it looks different than if it's printed on a laser jet printer, and all that stuff. So you really got to take it down to the nuts and bolts of what you really want your brand to be presented as.
And a reminder that we went through also when creating all of our materials for this conference is fonts. We have a custom font, and different people are going to be printing things and everything, that you actually have them download that custom font to make sure it's on their laptop when they're at training, make sure that it's ready for them to use so that it's very easy for them to keep that brand standard and not just end up with some sans serif version of whatever it was you wanted it to look like.
Did anybody else have any questions? Anyone? No? No? Okay.
I have a question.
Oh, that's right. I had a question.
Oh, Mike has a question.
Well, it's really not a question, but first of all, this was awesome, and I really appreciate that you included me in this conference. It was really outstanding, not only what you do for new franchisees, but your partners in our case. So I just wanted to thank you very much for that invitation. And I wanted to wanted to throw out, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but so I was kind of 50-50 on whether I can ask you this question. No, it's nothing bad, but I was just wondering, because all of these new franchisees can play off each other in terms of best practices, sharing best practices and those type of things. Have you considered, or would you consider broadening it out to doing this once a year with all of your franchisees, because they can all benefit, doing best practices with one another at a much bigger level than you did today? I think it would be a wonderful thing. So I just wanted to throw that out. So it wasn't a question, just a thought.
Well, we will talk about that.
Again, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you
No,
on the
no,
spot.
that's, we love ideas. Just like a franchisor, we always welcome suggestions. No, that's great, actually. The question that I have is, I would like to hear from you guys. What was good? Was there any suggestions you have for making it better? Was there any topics that we did not cover that you wish we would have?
Sarah, take notes.
Yeah, Sarah, take notes.
Thanks, Alan.
And I would like to hear from each one of you, if you don't mind just taking just a second to hear it from your perspective. That would be very beneficial for us.
Who would like to start? Me?
Harvey kind of did.
So,
You said you don't want the mic.
do you need to say something, Tom?
I was gonna kick it off and go. Okay, just don't leave.
Just not here.
I would suggest either doing 3-day and doing, spreading the content out more. I felt like yesterday, between travel and everything else, now, but that's my own problem, but I mean, by the end of the day, 10 hours together, and 1 hour at a time, just block of information. My head was glued. By the end of the day, I don't know if others feel that, but I mean, either spreading it out for a longer period of time or fewer sessions, but longer sessions to cover this.
Maybe we have it here in California.
I was going to concur with you because I came from Michigan too. So, and I was pretty drained, by the end of the day.
Okay. So, what's your next?
So, I loved the conference, thank you, it was awesome. There's a lot of great information in this binder that I can't read. So it's completely useless. So I look at this as a really valuable tool that is going to end up on a shelf that I'll never use because I can't read any of the pages on it because the writing is in a 0 font.
Yeah.
And it's not,
Maybe
can't.
flash drive or Marco.
We used to do the same thing in real estate when we had seminars, but we printed all our stuff big enough so that everybody could read it. So you could walk away and have, legible material that you could use, because I know I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to go, Lynn said something really important about fill in the blank. And I know the answer's in here, but I won't be able to read it. Yeah.
So thank you for that. So for our content, you're actually going to be receiving the slides, the full slides, so that you can see them and have that information. There are certain vendors that have not given permission to present their presentations because it is proprietary information, but they were kind enough to come and share it with us. So it won't necessarily include all of theirs, but the reason why we gave you those notebooks was so that you could take notes to remember things along with those slides. And I know you can't see them because they're no pages.
Maybe upload the video presentation.
Maybe get uploaded into our franchise stuff.
Alan still wants to talk.
So this is kind of tough, but vendors who wouldn't allow the information to leave the room should not be allowed to present. Just a suggestion. Because we can listen to what they say in here and we can leave the room and we'll remember it for a couple of hours, but I'm not going to remember it a week from now. And if I can't reference it back and I maybe don't have time to call them or I don't want to call them because it's something stupid and I maybe feel dumb asking the question, which is never the point in my case, because I ask stupid questions all the time. I could reference back to something that now becomes part of my franchisor library of information that I have from you guys, from Tom, from everybody else that I do stuff with, that I keep.
So valid point, and I didn't exactly have a picture of our website.
No, you were
fine.
Yeah.
But I've been in situations in the past, just speaking for the other suppliers, I've been in situations in the past where, again, I want to be a steward of the franchise community, and I want to help my clients, I want to do what's right, I'm passionate about this stuff, I love talking about franchising, but I tend to give away the farm. So I'll start talking about what's my 8-step process, and then I've got it all up here, and then why the hell would you hire me? You know,
I don't want to do that.
but you know, there's certain things that, you know, as we talk about, we're giving it in real time as part of just, you know, the one-on-one conversations, or, you know, here is a room, and it's a small intimate group, we can talk about those things, but I don't want it out there for, you know, to give the Joe Schmo broker, or et cetera.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some of the other suppliers feel that way, but to your point, I mean, there should be some stuff that we can share with you, that, or if you want to email us and say, hey, here's some stuff that I am comfortable providing, or, you know, the other point, like we talked about those sales index reports. I mean, some of those, you know, I pay $350 a year for the franchise update media report. I pay another $300 for the Fran Connect one. I mean, some of it's gonna, like, I pay for that. But other suppliers can speak for themselves on that one, just food for thought.
No, I just wanted to thank you guys. This has been a very awesome networking event for us. We've got to strengthen the relationships we've made before, and then we've got additional work we can do. So I really think this was an outstanding event. So, I agree it's a little bit small, the print, but this was just a really great event. And thank you very much for doing it.
I really appreciate this, just like he said, it's awesome. I loved hearing from all the vendors and getting to know other franchisors. I appreciate that so much, and I think this will be something we should continue to do moving forward. However, I don't know about anybody else, but this new ASC 0606 is freaking me out. I told Alan, I don't know. Is anybody else as nervous as I am about that? Because now, I mean, how are we going to, how are our financials going to look? How is our tax returns going to look? You know, those are the things that are coming into my head, so this is making me very nervous.
So to just touch on that, you know, we brought it up because we want you guys to be as informed as humanly possible, right? Even from the day that we started our relationship, right? We started off with the executive meeting. We brought in all of our own thoughts of how your franchise system could be set up. You brought in your own thoughts. We talked about it, we consulted together, we spent 3 days pounding our heads against the wall in some cases, together to come up with an informed decision, right? So now what we did do in this room is inform part of it. Now when we leave here for our clients, the decision part is what follows. Right, so we're going to be working with all of you on an individual basis to say, hey, these are the options that are potentially available to you based on the way that you set up your franchise system. Right, it's not as scary as it sounds since you know about it and you know to adjust for it. Right, if you didn't, and this is not, well, it's a plug regardless. If you weren't working with us, you wouldn't have known it existed. You'd go to do your audit and your auditor would be like, oh, wait a minute. We have to amortize this over the next 10 years. And you go, what? Oh, and by the way, we have to look back 3 years as well. So we're going to have to go, you know, apply that to this, not giving you any options to fix it in that whole scenario. So that, you know, as a plug to us is kind of why we wanted to put this on, and it's why we operate the way that we operate with you guys. When we find out new stuff, normally it's not this big of new stuff, right? It was a pretty big topic that came out. I know we had conversations with a ton of people about AB5 when it was first coming out. How is this going to affect franchising in California and all of that stuff? And that's what we really want to do, right? Like our slogan, your outsourced in-house counsel, right? Anything that you need from the franchisor perspective, we're there. That's why we charge a flat retainer. That's why you have unlimited telephone calls with us when you're on retainer, is so that you get the information that you need, you get to the decisions that you want to make that are best for your business. And so while you may be nervous about it, know that the solution is what follows this.
I will tell you from just people that I talk to outside of the Shelton Law family, I mean, the industry as a whole is looking at this thing like, okay, how can we make this go away? I mean, nobody likes it. There's nobody in the franchise community that's like, oh, goody. You know? The IFA is very familiar with it. You know, I'm sure their PAC is working on getting this thing repealed if possible. I mean, I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of people that are feeling the same way and trying to figure out what can we do about it. So hopefully we all work together as a group and find that magic bullet.
I'm going to do one more shameless plug as being the junior attorney in the firm. I foresee a lot of overtime coming my way with these audits and going back and reviewing everybody's financials and their agreements and what we need to do moving forwards. And so saying that and having the education that I have and the way attorneys normally work, as far as that goes, there's going to be a lot of people who just can't have an attorney go backwards and look through all of their franchise agreements and go back 3 years because it's too expensive to pay hourly. And so you guys have a fantastic opportunity as being part of the firm to save 146% off of your hourly bill had it been paid hourly with the flat retainer. And when things like this come up, know that we aren't adding to the bill, it's included. So
it starts in 2017?
Going forward.
Yes, the 3-year look back, 2017, 2018, 2019.
So just for an example, our franchising company, we haven't sold anything from 17, 18, 19. So what are we going to do with that in terms of franchise fees?
You still have expenses, you still have things that you're going to fix going forward, because whatever you fix in your FDD this year is how it's going to continue to go forward. So yes, you can go back 3 years and have to go back 3 years as a 3-year look back, but it's also going to carry forward. So if you sell one this year, you have to fix the FDD, you have to fix what you're calling, you have to fix your sales process, your vendor agreement, whatever happens to be applicable, so that you don't have to take 1/10 for 10 years going forward. Okay? Sure. Could be, it's not fixed.
So all the work for this starts Friday or Monday? Yeah, start effectively Monday, let's just say.
So
Or,
for,
I'm just curious, because
for you guys, it should start like now.
Yeah, because I got a recently updated FDD, but I don't know if it includes those fixes or not.
It does
I
not.
can see it does not.
It does not. So that's, remember I talked about in the presentation that the very first thing you guys need to do is to lay out step by step exactly what your onboarding process is going to be from the moment they say yes, whether it's a preliminary agreement, pre-training, a site selection, whatever the case may be, all the way through open. What does that look like? What is every step of that? Because that's where we can deep dive in and pull out pieces to make sure that this is not being characterized as something that has to be capitalized over 10 years. Okay?
It's papers.
That's makers.
On a brighter note, at least you guys are extremely proactive, just from the supplier standpoint and us having our own attorneys. This is awesome that they're proactive about it and they're not going to wait around. So feedback is great as a supplier, outside looking in. I'm not a franchisor, but feedback, I think this is great. And with you maybe spread out just a little bit, with a couple more potty breaks in between. You guys do serve a lot of drinks in regards to liquids going through my system. There should have been chips for lunch, Sarah.
Yeah.
I know you're leading that, but overall, this is a great group. I appreciate you allowing us, and I think just bouncing off the ideas of everything. I think working together in a smaller group like this intimate, getting the best practices of everything and understanding how it all works together. But I do appreciate the invite here. There's great information for me, learning more and more stuff that I can bring value to our franchise brands. It's great. So I appreciate everything that you guys have done last 2 years.
Thank you. And Mark, you could be a franchisor.
I've been approached. No.
And we also pay referral fees.
I would also like to thank you guys for inviting us. You know, one thing that can get lost in the mix is that, you know, we are your real estate firm, we are your in-house real estate. We're not, you know, just somebody in the ethos that's, you know, your AT&T provider, your cable provider. We're real people, and we really do, we're passionate about what we do. It's important to know who we are and put a face to the name. So I was really happy to be able to actually, you know, Nat and I have worked together for a couple of years now, and I'd actually never met face to face. So it was really nice to get to meet all of you. Feedback for what we're doing here, I think this was fantastic. You know, getting to know how everybody operates, what their individual needs are, what they're looking for going forward, all those things were fantastic. Getting to go to Axe Monkeys was really huge for me because we don't have one locally, right? So getting to understand, you know, we talk a lot about analytics and all of these things, right? This is kind of the start of what we do, but when it comes down to it, we're doing real estate. So there's a lot of infrastructure needs, right? There's a lot of spatial needs. There's a lot of things that go into the deal points of actually making these real estate deals happen. So getting to know Axe Monkeys on that front was really cool. Moving forward, just an idea, maybe we move this thing around every year and visit other franchises around the country.
Come to California and you can have lunches at the Pocket Deli. You can go to their office. We can do a lot.
They may not want anybody in their office.
Just saying. Just saying. It would be great.
Yeah, exactly. So we get to see how everybody else operates.
And you're not the millennial.
So normally at these, at franchise conferences, whether it's IFA, you know, that's going on in a week and a half, or IFE, West Coast Franchise Expo, different conferences around the country over the year, you have to pick and choose which sessions you want to go to. And it's often, I want to go to both, but they're at the same time. As long as it wasn't as much as my brain's goo, I think about it, I'm like, we got over a year's worth of information in this one conference. And so that's a huge accomplishment. And that's, you would pay, what, $40,000 just to travel alone to go to the amount of conferences that you need to cover all of this in a year.
So greatly underpriced your tickets.
Yeah, first and foremost, just want to thank, obviously, everyone at Shelton for putting this on. I thought you guys did a really good job. It seems like every brand that's here, you kind of looked at us as suppliers, like, okay, how can we bring value to your potential brands that are looking to grow and continue to emerge? So I thought, it's like hearing everyone kind of speak in their questions, concerns, it just kind of, I thought, brought a lot of value to everyone, because a lot of them probably share the same concerns as far as the new laws. So getting out in front of that was kind of cool for me to hear, because I don't deal with it on the same level that everyone else does. But a lot of good information overall from, like I said, suppliers to the franchise level. So that was really informative for me personally. Other than that, yeah, just kind of echo as far as feedback, just maybe a little bit more spread out, because obviously there's a lot of information to take in for a full year. So to hear it all kind of in 2 10-hour blocks was a little bit much. But other than that, yeah, I just overall thought it was really great, and appreciate you guys putting it on for us. So thank you.
Christine said please for short term.
Yeah, I guess first of all, I just want to thank Christine and Elaine for the invitation, because I think we're the only potential item here
will be delivered. And I guess that's really valuable because in order for us to make a decision, just moving forward, whether or not we want to be a franchisor or also who's going to work with. I think that's really valuable information. I guess one feedback I would have is it would be nice to have some more kind of dedicated time carved out for just a networking in general, so that we get to talk to actual financial and also some existing franchisors. I understand that if you guys try to squeeze everything into 1 minute and a half, that's good. But it'd be nice to have some time for us to actually talk to more people to understand, not just from your firm and some vendors' perspective, also. But like the conversation we're having with TPO guys, we can have more because we're both in Austin, so that's good. But I would also want to learn from Hawkeye, for example, and what they thought of it. That's just one thing. But overall, thank you guys.
Thanks.
We definitely want you guys to continue having relationships with each other. Some part of this is like a support group for franchisors, right? You're all part of the Shelton Law family now. And so you get to have those conversations and understand one another. And with everything that I've personally been through, I know how important support groups can be. So I will say that. And the other shameless plug that I'm going to put in here is that we tell our franchisors all the time to have meet the team days and discovery days. And Shelton Law just had a meet the team day and discovery day. And I want to invite all of our franchisors to continue to do that and to continue to invite people to those, because when they come, it's really exciting and really fun. And I was really glad to have the About Up team here and get a perspective from someone that isn't paying us together.
And also, I know we didn't pick on you, there were other prospective franchisors that wanted to be here that just could not make it happen. And so I do apologize for the jam-packed, kind of apologize. It might happen again, I'm kidding. I probably won't. But I think we did try to do it with the intention that you could fly in Tuesday, get out tonight, until we picked Vegas to begin with, was because we knew that it's, the easy hub to get in and out of. And it was last minute. Like I said, it started in November. I knew it was on nobody's budget. It was on nobody's radar for their calendar and everything else. So we tried to keep it as short as possible, but yet still get the information that we felt like we needed to know. And yeah, it was pretty jam-packed for us too. Yes, it was perfect for all these presentations that were all brand new. Nothing was repeated from anything we've ever done anywhere else.
So I just wanted to thank you all for putting this together and for everybody having a chance to kind of meet up and share testimonials about how their businesses are doing, what they want to do for the future, things like that. So thank you all for inviting us. Just tagging along. It would have been nice to spread it a little bit out, but I understand there's a lot of information to cover, so thank you all, anyways.
I'm not a good speaker, so. But thank you, Lynn and Christina and Jeremy, Elmer. Thank you all. A lot of information. We're gonna go crazy, but I hope that we can do our best to get everything ready. Because we're looking forward to the next 5 years extension, and we know that there is definitely, if others can take it, we can too. It's just a matter of how do we approach and how can we take care of our business.
Good job.
No, but in reality, it's not fun. It's not going to be fun. I know that I can very see that there's a lot of headaches that will be coming up. It's just that we have to try to get together to get rid of some problems. That's all.
And we will. One step at a time, right?
I've been there, done that.
Exactly.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank you, the whole team, for inviting me. I'm very glad that I came. I wasn't really sure because of so many things to do, but I'm glad that I'm here. I was able to learn a lot of things. And I'd like to thank everybody for being here too, because I get to learn, to know you, all of you. And maybe my suggestion is in the next meetings, we can have like a 1-minute introduction of each one, what to do and how you do it, and how are you successful, you know, how you get here. Something that will give us background of who the people are here, who are the franchises. Profiling, something. Yeah, so that's the only thing. And then maybe in the middle of the conference, we can have like an icebreaker, so we can like
Great idea.
scratch your back, something like that.
Okay.
Okay. So, and I am lucky to have a student here who is who looks like an actor, singer in the Philippines. Look for him. Look up the name Oki Alcacid. They exactly look the same. Thank you very much.
I'll start singing tomorrow.
Okay, just a couple on this side. Anything? All right, thank you very much. Eric, you have anything? Here you are. She's gonna be right. That's for last.
No, I concur with everything that was said. Great opportunity to connect. The information was awesome for us on our end, and some of the things that we actually have to pivot and make some changes on. So that was amazing. And just the fact that you guys invited us here, we greatly appreciate it. It's positive stories. So we're looking forward to, of course, continuing the conversation beyond this point, and not only with the ones that attending, but you guys as well. So,
I have something real quick. As the news person with Shelton Law, I just wanted to say it was really nice to meet all you guys and kind of put, you know, a face to the voices over the phone, and you guys were relaxed, and it was really fun getting to know all you guys, and I learned a lot. I did not know a lot about law, so hopefully that means I'll have some good advice coming up pretty soon. So I just want to thank you guys for being so awesome, and have a good time. Sarah, do you want to say anything?